Hello and welcome to the Madecast, the official podcast of the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment, a series of lectures on video game history as part of the Made's ongoing effort to preserve history through teaching and displaying playable exhibits of your games and consoles.
While life in the time of COVID has forced us to close our doors, the support of people like you has allowed us to continue to bring history to you through lectures and interviews like the one you'll hear in a few minutes. I'm Red.
I'm Miles.
And I'm Chun. Today we have a chat with Karla Zimonja, one of the founder of Fullbright, who made Gone Home and worked at Bioshock titles. Those are some very big names.
Yes, she worked on Gone Home. She worked on Tacoma, that other really nice like spacefaring Fullbright title, and the working on Bioshock, and then went on to do the Minerva's Den DLC, which the storytelling in that DLC kind of like inspired a lot more of like Gone Home and the Tacoma titles. It's quite an amazing game. If you haven't checked out Gone Home, highly recommend it. You'll hear about it in this interview. Karla was a fantastic guest. She's now with a new project called Ivy Room, and unfortunately wasn't able to talk too much about that in the interview. But we'll have her back on when she releases, once they release their full game. It's going to be a good interview. I think you all will enjoy it a lot. But before we get into that, we have a little bit of news to get into. After having Megan McDuffie on a couple weeks ago, we have Centipede Recharged is available for free on the Epic Store. So if any of you would like to try that out, highly recommend checking it out, looking at her music and looking at the gameplay and see how they revamped Centipede for the 2022. For the 2022. We also have Triangle Strategy is now out, getting decent reviews. Have any of you guys checked that out yet?
I have been looking forward to that game, like from the point I think they announced it on a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, was that last year, 2 years ago?
Probably. I have been looking forward to that for a long time because I have tried their previous few games. I mean, their team, like the Octopus Traveler and other stuff, and those are really fun. I think they make some pretty interesting system in the game, so if I have a chance, I would definitely check it out.
Mm-hmm. I really like the art style for Octopath Traveler and now Triangle Strategy, the sort of 2.5, like, these are SNES like pixel graphics, but they're done up like in an actual engine and with proper lighting and everything. It looks fantastic.
It's kind of a fresh taste in all those pixel games we have now, and I think they're pretty much the first developer to do this kind of stuff, and ever since I've been seeing people trying to do this style themselves, and it's phenomenal.
The 16-bit graphics look phenomenal. I mean, there's so many games that were on Super Nintendo and of that era that looked amazing, but they were like limited to like a specific color palette that they could choose from and everything else. But having access to the full color palette of a PC engine and then running everything like that, they look phenomenal. The little bit more level of detail is pretty exciting. I'll definitely have to give that a shot after I die another 1,000 times in Elden Ring. Californication is also now a legitimate game. If you've ever watched the music video for Californication, that Red Hot Chili Peppers song released in 99, 2000, there is this moment where it looked like a PS1 playthrough, or just like you're running through LA and all these crazy video game graphics. When I was a kid, I always thought that was a game. Now I realize somebody also thought it was waiting for it, but they actually made it. I believe it's Mikel Comp Orteza released it for free on Steam. He saw that nobody else was doing it. You can check it out yourself. It's essentially a playthrough of the song. Highly recommend checking that out. I believe I'm going to hop on that once we're done here. Last little bit of news we have. Lost Ark has banned over 1 million accounts suspected to be bots. So in the fight against cheating and bots, we have at least the first step in the right direction of making it more fair for actual players. They also said if you may have been affected by this blanket ban of over 1 million accounts, you can appeal that if you are earnestly playing Lost Ark and have not modified your game in any way. Whatever that means.
Yeah, this has always been an important part for managing a MMO, because if they just leave the bots there, it's gonna destroy the economy of the game, and it will be disastrous.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is a good step in the right direction. But we'll get more on that news in a little bit. For now, we're going to sit down. I had a chat with Karla Zimonja, who is a fabulous guest. Lots of insight into the process behind Gone Home. It was a great interview, and I think you will enjoy it. Without further ado, here's Karla Zimonja. Hello and welcome back to the Madecast. We have our very special guest here today. She has worked on many projects, including working for Fullbright Studios, which was the Minerva's Den DLC. We have Gone Home and the sci-fi space adventure Tacoma, as well as some of her recent things. And then there was a new project she is working on with a new studio called Ivy Room. Please welcome Karla Zimonja.
Hi. Did they welcome me? How can you tell?
Yes, they welcomed you.
Okay, thanks.
Everyone was loud cheer, large round of applause.
Oh, man. That's great. I'm so excited. Anyway, hello. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you very much, Karla. So on the show, we like to ask people who have worked in the industry for a while, initially, how you got your start. What made you want to pursue a career in games?
Oh, man. Yeah, so this was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it was many years ago. Honestly, I got my start in animation. That's where my degree is. And what my first jobs out of school were, I worked in TV, and I worked on a show called Dr. Katz and a show called Home Movies briefly. And essentially, at some point, I had a friend who I'd gone to school with who had joined up with some weird video game studio, and he was like, we need an animator, you should apply. And I was like, I've never animated in 3D. I mean, I had done stop motion, but that is not the same thing, unfortunately.
No, it's not. But
It's
I mean,
real
I'm sure that definitely helped you like visualize what you wanted to do in 3D.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like actually physically sculpting also extremely helps for modeling and such like. But yeah, so essentially I applied, and it was early enough, and I threw together some walk cycles, and they were like, these are good enough. And I got hired at the place that made Asheron's Call way back in the day. And I animated monsters for a little while.
Well, were you like inspired by any early like horror titles or like horror animation? Was it just you fell into the monster design?
Oh, so this was Asheron's Call was an MMO. It was one of the early ones, like real old, like EverQuest and stuff. I just generally tended to like creatures, and monsters are usually what I liked to animate. I come from a sort of film background also, and so I love a good like well puppeteered creature, or back in the day you could not have good 3D animated creatures in movies because that didn't exist. But there's a lot of fun ones out there, like the some of the weirder ones from it's like Hellraiser. There's like the terror dogs from Ghostbusters. You know, there's a lot of all the Jim Henson ones, like in
Are you telling me Godzilla 2000 wasn't a great 3D animation?
That did not inspire me back in 2001. I don't think I had that capability. But yeah, definitely was more interested in the creatures for whatever reason. General weirdness, I guess.
Well, that's great. It's definitely taken you marvelous places. So in the timeline, you worked at you were working for Fullbright, and how did you guys get involved with doing the Minerva's Den DLC?
Right. Okay, so for clarity, Fullbright had not yet been formed when Minerva's Den was in progress. The deal was that I was working at 2K Marin, working on Bioshock 2, and so was Steve, and so was Yanaman. And when Bioshock 2 wrapped up, there was internally there was sort of a choice for devs to move on to the next project or to move on to DLC. And the DLC team for Minerva's Den specifically, there's actually a couple of DLCs. There was the Protector Trials and whatnot. They all kind of each had a designer who had previously just been a level designer in charge of the DLC, and Steve drew the Minerva's Den leadership. And we had about, I think it was 9 or 10 people who wanted to stay in the Bioshock 2 world rather than move on to something else. And that was the team that ended up making up the game, the DLC. It's standalone. It's kind of a game all by itself.
Yeah, it's definitely its own game. It's its own feel, and it's the storytelling in that like standalone DLC was like totally captivating and like gripping as
thank you.
I mean, it's a very well told story, and it's shown throughout like the other works too, especially with the other Fullbright titles. So
it 100% like began that like for us, and like working on Bioshock 2 was necessary for this, but just the concept of overlaying space with time, essentially, making them move along in tandem, that just got used forever for us.
I mean, it's a great way to keep people captivated and well within a realm that has been fully developed. So within Rapture, the underwater town in Bioshock 2, the Minerva's Den had a whole completely like separate storyline. Did you also have a hand in like the writing involved in that as well?
Yeah. I was the editor. Same relationship as throughout Fullbright. Editor, story, whatever, other person, partner. And yeah, we did a lot. I think we did a lot of fun things with that story, and it was very satisfying to.
No, I was going to say, what were some of your favorite, like, memorable moments that you were most proud of in that DLC?
Oh man, let's see. What was a good time? I think. Oh man. It's been a while. The absolute most important thing to me was after it shipped, very soon afterwards, we happened upon a stream of some guy just playing through it. And this was not, all that common at that point. This was a bunch of years ago at that point. What year was that?
It was 2012?
Earlier, because
Yeah, so probably like
2012 is when
2010.
we started Fullbright. So it's got to be like 2010 or something. I don't know. Oh no, it's earlier than that because there was so late 2000 zeros. Anyway.
Yes.
Timelines. Who knows? Who knows what they are?
They're all intertwined.
But yeah, we just happened to find somebody streaming this, and we were just like sitting there, like literally, just watching this together. And the guy kept saying, "Wow, there's more here. What? How much of this is there?" And like being surprised by that, which is always gratifying. Not in a I'm bored way, but in a thank goodness kind of way. Yeah. But then when he got to the end set piece where your weapons are down and you have to walk through, or your hands, you have to walk through Porter's like lab quarters kind of situation in order to end the game, and you just have to like wend your way through and look at all of the pieces of his life. The guy literally got choked up. He was just some gamer bro. He was probably 23, and we could hear him go like like just do that little bit of a choke, and he recovered quickly and was like, this is my sad room. I come here to be sad, and like kind of pulled it back up. But we were like, we fucking got him. We got this random guy to like to feel this loss and this I don't know, the enormity of this situation. And that was a big deal. It was actually, it was relatively new, like I say, to be able to just watch people experiencing it who aren't part of your company. Yeah. Or, I guess, I don't remember whether we did like focus playtests. It's been too long, but probably not for the DLC. I don't think we had time. But yeah, that was a pretty cool moment. That was interesting.
Well,
but there were a lot of little things.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and like along those same lines too. Like when you went on from the success of Minerva's Den to Gone Home, which is one of the most like beautifully told stories in a game. It is a remarkable storytelling experience, and it's just the simplicity. I mean, simplicity, quote unquote, but it's just allowing you to experience and make your way through this house and relive this experience and exploring this empty place, relive the memories and actually grip the feeling of that tumultuous coming of age story and finding like real love, like forbidden love is, I mean, forbidden, but it's such a, it was amazingly captured. And the voice actor as well did such an amazing job. Sarah
Grayson is her stage name.
Yes.
She is so good. She's so good.
Yeah. Have you? Did she work with you on other titles after Gone Home?
She was the voice of Amy in Tacoma, and also she was our producer on Tacoma.
Oh, fantastic!
Still there now. Yeah, being a producer and just wrecking shop. She's so good at it.
Yeah, it's a very amazing job. It's a beautiful story, and I've definitely spent more time with Gone Home than I have with Tacoma. Tacoma has been more watching, but Tacoma has been more like watching playthroughs. And again, just like you said, watching people's reactions and seeing people's like honest interactions with a down to earth and amazingly set story it's hard to do and hard to get right. And you guys consistently get it right. You guys definitely touch all the feel buttons, and it's really, I highly recommend every one of our listeners, if they haven't checked out any of these games, to check them out and spend time with them.
I should note they are cheap as shit at this point. They go on sale all the time. Just pick them up. It's fine.
Yes, they're very affordable for the story that you get, and they're absolutely worth playing. And honestly, like at that time too, like rewatching some playthroughs of Gone Home, I think you maybe do some residuals for the unreleased PT as well. Just circling back, collecting items and checking out, and then having new things appear as you make your way through the house and collecting things. So you may have pioneered some amazing storytelling there that
well, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that we have definitely seen pop up elsewhere. Such as, like, I don't know, the folk in Don't Nod was very clear about Gone Home being an inspiration for Life is Strange. And there's a lot of, there's always things you can use in the indie space. That is how the ecosystem works. The bigger companies get the gene transfer from the smaller indies.
I mean, so having worked like initially from like going to Bioshock and then working with 2K Studios and then to Fullbright, did you like have a more sense of like pride and freedom once you went to Fullbright, that you can like kind of create your own story and not kind of be beholden to these higher powers at all?
Yeah. Here, excuse me. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a relief in a lot of ways to not have a publisher, breathing down your neck and telling you what is acceptable and what will play in Peoria, as it were. That's not very nice for Peoria. I shouldn't say such things. I'm sure Peoria is very nice. It's sort of an old joke that I don't need to repeat.
Quaint.
But yeah, like, I mean, I don't know. We couldn't have made, especially back before Life is Strange came out, we couldn't have made a game about teen girls at a AAA studio. Like, especially teen girls in love and just hanging out and having interpersonal situations. Like, that was not a real thing. And nobody would have okayed it until they saw it. And so that's how indie is that you can make the thing that you think needs to be made, provided you have the money and support from people. But you don't have to convince anybody unless you need money, in which case you do have to convince people.
Yeah. But I mean, you definitely don't. I mean, for the stories that you all present and tell, there's definitely no need to convince me or any other host that they are stories that are worth being told and stories that are worth going on, worth being presented and shown to their fullest extent. Another thing about Gone Home, before we move on really quick, did you have a hand in picking out some of the music for the tapes that were lying around?
Yes. Yeah, we definitely, I think for all of us, I don't think anybody on the team had truly grown up with Riot Grrrl. And so we did our research and found the songs that resonated best that were available to us to license. So like, that is as sad as it is to perhaps admit, that is more of a doing it right due diligence aspect of the game rather than a passion part. Like, we thought it was right for the characters, and so we did our research and found what we thought was right.
And so it absolutely was. The due diligence paid off, and it fit the story immaculately. It's a beautiful story, and I really can't say enough about Gone Home and how much it was amazing.
Thank you. It is important to note that, so real quick, it's important to note that a large part of what makes it work is that we literally interviewed people who had been through similar situations and got their experiences and specific things that had been said to them and specific ways they had felt and how they described things, and that informed a lot of the story's specifics. And when it comes to a story like this, the specificity and the authenticity is so important. So it wouldn't, that's the best way I can say how we got to having the characters feel good.
Yes, and they felt extremely authentic and very relatable. And it's amazing how like heartfelt a story can be told in the form of memories, as like just walking through a house and checking things. So now that we've talked about your Fullbright experience, you and some members of what was the other half of the studio? The other studio that is forming Ivy Room with you as well.
So Tacoma was back at Fullbright also.
Yes.
They're continuing to work on their third game. Ivy Road is the studio that I have joined up with a couple years ago. That's with Davey Reedon and C418, the composer. Also Oratriolo, if you follow her on Twitter, and a few other people who are, I don't know how name dropping works. I'm trying to think of people you might know, but
it's all good. I mean, any names that are notable that you would like to like mention for is perfectly fine.
But yeah, that's we're relatively new. We're still working on our first game, which is going to be narrative forward, and that's probably all I'm going to say about it.
That's fine. That is totally fine. We are very much looking forward to the next installment from Karla Zimonja's mind and the collaborations it brings.
Yeah, it's more of a collaboration. I think it is. Yes. It is not fair to say it is. It's a collaboration.
Definitely. Yes. So before hopefully we'll have you back on once that game releases, and we can talk a little bit more about that in the future. But before we wrap up, I want to just ask you: is there any game that you've been playing recently that you're really into at the moment? Favorite game of yours, or or favorite game of all time that you used to play as well?
I'm kind of just playing Pokemon right now, which is
Legends.
I feel Arceus. Arceus.
Yes.
How do you say it?
I say Arceus, but I've seen it's
fine.
Whatever you like to say.
It's fine. Yeah, I'm just playing that right now. But let's see. My first game that I bought with my own money was Neverhood, which I still have a soft spot for. I'm an adventure game beast, and I will never not be. And the last game that I really just fell over dead because of that is my desktop right now is Disco Elysium. That is a hell of a game.
Yeah. Disco Elysium for the win.
Come on.
People can, another game that you should check out per this recommendation, lose yourself to it. It's immaculate.
It's important.
Yes. Highly important. There is, we can talk about this. We can talk about this all day.
All right,
but
let's do it.
The last thing I want to, but the last thing I wanted to ask is for anyone looking to get into the industry in any capacity, is there any advice that you would have for anyone looking to break ground?
Dude, I've been in the industry for like 20 years. I don't know how people get into the industry now. I have no idea. I mean, we hire occasionally, so I guess I've seen like some resumes and stuff, but boy, I'd have a hard time making a true recommendation. I'm just not in touch with the way the ecosystem works these days. I guess I would prefer it if y'all wrote cover letters that weren't extremely arrogant. We've gotten a few of those. But I'm not the person to ask, unfortunately.
No
ask
worries.
me something silly.
What's your favorite silly word?
Ooh, silly word. That's a good one. Let's see. I got like the one that popped to mind is defenestrate, which is always real silly. Like it's just like you can't say that with a straight face, even though it is, potentially kind of a serious word in that, you don't want to be defenestrated, but it's still silly.
Defenestrate. My recent one that I used is flabbergasted.
Ooh, that's funny.
It hits all the consonant notes, and it just flabbergasted. It's a great word,
good.
And it's
double
it needs to be used
good.
more. Yeah.
I think this isn't a literal word, but I had a great experience with somebody. I was looking at somebody's shoes and I was like, those are cute. Where'd you get those? And he was like, oh man, I got these at the discount store. Like they're not even a brand. They're probably like, I don't know, Bonverse or something. And I cracked up so bad. Bonverse?
Yes. Yes.
I loved it.
John Bon Jovi Converse mashup.
Yes. Thank you for not saying Bono. I appreciate that.
Oh, no. Well, Karla, perfect. Thank you very much for coming on and having this lovely conversation with us. And as soon as Ivy Room's first release comes out, we will gladly be hitting you back up to come back on the show and have another chat with us. And any other developers on the team that you'd like to join you. So,
sure.
Yes.
That's fun and cool. Thank you for already inviting me back, even though we've barely finished this thing. And look forward to continuing to chat.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Karla.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Karla, for sitting down and having that chat. It was lovely to have you on. You're full of great insight, and we look forward to seeing more titles that you and your team and the team around you can release. We'll have you back on as soon as Ivy Room releases their next title. So, before we wrap up this episode, let's talk a little bit about what we've all been playing.
I think I told you that I was playing Destiny 2 because of the latest expansion last week, and I'm gonna bring you more details about it this week because I just finished. Actually, I didn't finish it. I took a part in the day one race in Destiny 2. So Destiny 2 just released a new raid Saturday, and what they usually do is they will make the raid in a contest mode, which is making all the ads and enemies killing you faster, just making every single of your damage become less than usual, and just more difficult in general in 24 hours. But instead they make it 48 hours for some reason this time because of a lot of disconnection. There are literally too many people playing the games. And I think this is the first time I try to be serious on this and really putting times into playing it, and it is fun. I have to say this is probably the second most difficult raid in the whole game.
Okay.
It is really fun figuring out all the mechanics and puzzle together with my teammates, and it's unfortunate we didn't make it through to beat the final boss, but we do make to the final encounter. It just we didn't complete the DPS check and someone have to go. That's really unfortunate. Yeah, gaming things.
It's how it goes.
It's how it goes.
Yeah.
And I'm really tired to find a new team, we've gone all the way through all the encounters until we hit the final boss. It's really difficult to find people who can coordinate the same way we do. And I just have to call it and give it up. It was fun.
It's okay. You'll be able to do it more in the future. I believe in you.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, I've been playing Elden Ring a little bit. Probably get a little bit more time later this week, but it's beautiful. It's a Souls game. It's hard. It's very fun. The mechanics are definitely something to get used to. Changing out everything. It's a bit of a learning curve with this game compared to like other Souls games. I mean, there's always a learning curve in the Souls games, but with the new classes and everything too, I started playing the Astrologer, so you have spellcasting and a sword on your side too. It's been fun, but it's hard, and it's also a bit confusing navigating it. Just the basic principles of like where you're trying to go. They do have, as soon as you get the new like shrines of grace or whatever, essentially your bonfires, there's a light trail that points you into like the next requested direction that you go. So it'll help you go around, but there's not a lot of different things that they don't really explain to you. Like acquiring your steed is not as like simple as everything else. Mm-hmm. So you acquire your steed just by resting at this specific bonfire, which is another interesting way to do it, but it's a bit of a toughie. I like the openness of it. The world is so big. It is, I think, by far the biggest map of any open world game that I've ever played. It's intense. It's a lot, but it's gorgeous. All the enemies are so unique and fun to immerse yourself in. It's a real good game, y'all. It's a real good game.
I am eagerly anticipating having an open schedule so I can play it.
Yes, soon, and then by then maybe we can get some co-op modes going and have a maid cast run of some bosses. That should be pretty fun.
Do they have multiplayer in the games already?
A little bit. I mean, essentially I think for some bosses you can summon a friend to play with you a little bit. So
only for the
it's probably for It's probably for much the same way that Dark Souls has done co-op, where you sort of have to summon in your allies for specific areas.
That'd be crazy.
You can't just play with them the whole game. You have to re-say, hey, we're doing this boss for this area. You beat them and then they're gone. And it's like, oh, now my friends are gone.
It's got to be more difficult in terms of technical difficulties to do something like that in an open world game because the map is so huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, part of me is thinking that it might. This is probably just me talking out of my butt right now, but I think it might be somewhat easier just to have specific areas to summon rather than just be summoned anywhere on the map. So it would be limited to a specific area, and then you can fight with people. But you also can summon these great spirits to help you fight that are like NPC spirits that eventually just take damage and deal damage while they're helping you out in a fight. So the reviews are right. Elden Ring is good. Give it a shot. And dying in a Souls game is a badge of honor.
I'll probably get it when it's on sale.
I think that... Yes.
Yep.
I highly recommend it. Get it on sale. But I think that's about all the time we have for today. We want to thank you for listening to the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment's official podcast. If you have any thoughts, questions, corrections, or general museum ideas, please shoot us an email at info@themaid.org.
We would like to send out a big thank you to everyone who donated recently and to our patron supporters who keep the Maid afloat. Patreon donors get to listen to this podcast 1 week before it's released on major streaming services, and we'll continue that with future episodes every week.
This week's episode is brought to you in part by Patreon donors Christopher and James Walker. Thanks so much for your support. Till next time, I'm Miles.
I'm Chun.
And I'm Red. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.